Tonight, I want to talk with you guys. This is part 2 of Discerning Self Dreams. Last week we did part 1, obviously. And let me just go back and just make sure there isn't anything that we need to immediately review. So we know that God's going to talk to you about your body and your health, your relationships, your feelings. He's going to talk to you about stuff that's happening in your life, your job. We talked about recognizing symbols and characteristics of things that you see, right? Talked about all those things last week. Excellent. Have any of you guys started with just the information that you have? Have you started to try to interpret? Excellent. This week is going to, this is basically it. Between last week and this week, it's the basic like how-to, and if we have time, I want to show you some. And next week, I'm going to talk about parameters, guidelines, do's and don'ts, like how to not get weird, just some basic like guidelines that you should live by as you're interpreting. And then the week after that, we're going to do some group interp. So that's 2 weeks' time that's going to happen. So by then, you should have had a lot of practice interpreting your own dreams, so that when we get into a group setting, it's going to be pretty fun. So we'll all bring a dream in. And so that's out in the future just a little bit. Last week, I talked a little bit, I ended on this point that sometimes you'll have a dream that relates to more than your personal, more than your inner life. It like relates to more than you, and you've examined that dream very carefully, and you've relied upon Holy Spirit to give you the interpretation, and you just can't figure out how it's possible that this dream would apply to you personally. Because remember, I told you like 95+% dreams are about you. So this is that 5% range that I'm talking about. So I know it's very little, but I think it's important to at least talk about it, because as you begin to develop this gifting, it's going to happen. Even for some people in this room, it's going to start happening where you start dreaming much further out of your own sphere. And that brings about its own pluses and minuses. If you do too much future casting, you're not doing any self-work, which is important. If you're doing a lot of self-work, you might feel like you're stifling your gift. So it's just kind of an interesting balance. But this is that case where you've scrutinized it, you've asked Holy Spirit to help, you've asked the Father to come in and teach you, and you've even sought the counsel of your peers and your circle of dreamers, people who you know can trust to be honest with you, not just give you the answers that you want to hear. You should really have friends in your circle that will just be honest with you, instead of just people who just try to tell you what you want to hear. It's much better, even though it hurts sometimes. It's much better to have people who are going to be honest with you in your circle. So purpose to do that, will you? Good. Okay, so these counselors, these people, 9 times out of 10, so now I don't even know what kind of figures I'm talking about. That little 5% range, you think it's about somebody else. 9 times out of 10, your counselor, your helper, your dream circle is going to be able to show you your blind spot, and you'll find that it is actually about you. But sometimes it's not. Okay, and if your counselors agree that the dream does not apply to your life, then you can start to consider that this might be for somebody else. Okay, so after you've scrutinized it yourself, studied it, prayed on it, listened to the Holy Spirit, then gotten your counsel involved, said, hey guys, I had this dream. It's, doesn't seem like a kind of inconsequential dream, seems important to me. I can't figure out how this applies to me. Here's what I've got. Will you take this information in the dream, pray on it, tell me what you get, and then come back? Then you can start considering, like if they're like, yeah, for sure, then you can start considering that. One indication that it might be a dream about somebody else is if you're just the observer. If you're solely the observer, if you're like man on the moon watching stuff happen, that's a sign that it's not about you, but that's not a hard and fast rule. Okay, it's just a sign. Sometimes you'll get a dream where you're the casual observer, and then you take place in the dream. Then you have a role to play, and then you come back out. It's usually asking, if that's about somebody else, God's asking you to intercede. He wants you to get involved. Does that make sense? He wants you to come down from that spot and pray and intercede. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I just wanted to show you guys just so you could have a visual. Okay, sweet. It's already over there. And again, I apologize for how terrible this looks, but at least you can see it. Here's some dreams that I pulled from Genesis through Matthew, and I just want to. I'm not going to go through all of them because there's better ways that we can spend our time tonight. But I just want you to see it. There's 17 dreams up there. You see those from Genesis to Matthew? Those aren't all the dreams in the Bible. Remember, I told you if we accumulated all the dreams in the Bible and all the stuff about the things that those dreams produced, you'd end up with 1/3 of the Bible. This is pretty amazing. If you think about it, it's almost unbelievable. If it wasn't in the Word, I'd have a hard time believing that. But here are 17. Look at this, you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in blue. 5 dreams were about others. 17 of those dreams were about themselves, about the dreamer themselves. Do you see that? And here's what conclusions you can draw from that, really, too, is that the dreams for or about other people that are prophetic in nature, if you look down this list, they were given to kings or kings' advisors. Does that make sense? And those dreams were concerning the future of their kingdoms. Does that make sense? So the principle that we can draw from this is that dreams, that these revelations from the Holy Spirit are only given to us that apply in our area of responsibility. We talk about this a lot in SoFi and how to prophesy. You get all these people who prophesy over the whole earth. You got to be careful which vein of prophets you lean into, because it's pretty easy when they make these really bold statements about the condition of the earth and where society is going to be and what's happening with the government. It's very easy to prove those prophets right or wrong. Right? It either happened or it didn't happen. Right. Isn't that true? And so you end up with these. Now, some of these guys, they're legit. They've got authority to talk about these things. But there are a lot of people who, I'll tell you what. And I know this isn't SoFi, but it doesn't take a prophetic gift to preach doomsday. It doesn't take a prophetic gift to say, our government's in the tank. And I've heard prophets talk about how bread's going to cost $500 next year, and this is 5 years ago. This is the year that President so-and-so is going to get born again, and that was 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, these negative things. I mean, it's one thing when you get a warning. It's a whole other thing when you're just doomsday, fear, fear, fear. Here's the deal, guys. Christ is coming back for a victorious bride. So the more you dig prophets that talk about how terrible our life is, our world is, or our government is, all you're saying is Christ is not coming back that much longer. He is not coming back, you guys, for a beat-up, gnarly, abused, suffocating, insecure bride. He's coming back for a victorious, life-giving, over and above, beautiful bride. And it's our job to make that happen. And I will agree with prophets who agree with God about this earth. Okay? And same thing in my dream life, like things that I have authority over. So, lots of people like to think that they have a lot more authority than they actually do. And, throughout these wide, overarching statements, maybe for a bunch of different reasons. Maybe because they want to be noticed. Maybe because they want to be powerful. I don't know. But it's really important in your dream life and in your prophetic life that you understand the nature, character, and heart of God, because you can miss it. And then, guys, there is no reason why you should be storing 3 years' worth of food and water in your house. It's ridiculous. There's no reason for that. It's not biblical. God says, don't bring a thing with you. Go out there and get her done. I'll take care of your needs. Don't worry about it. So what are we stockpiling all this stuff for? That's not our God. Now, it's one thing if you're Jared and you just want to freeze your food. He feeds people. So in his defense, you go over to his house and you're going to get a big old steak. You know what I mean? So it's not like he's like, don't touch my stockpile. It's different. I'm talking about the people who are like, oh, well, you never know because the government's going to collapse and we're not going to be able to eat. Like, really? That's your God? He's not going to take care of you because your government? God's not a Republican. God's not an American. God's not involved in that. God's a king of a kingdom, not part of our democracy. Our little democracies rise and fall every day, and so what? God's people have always been taken care of. Period. So, what's going on with the government? I don't know. I don't care. Just pray for them. I would like our government to embrace righteousness, of course. Who wouldn't, right? And if they don't, I'm going to pray for them, but I'm not going to be like, oh man, America's going down. Christ must be coming back. Everything's terrible. Like, no, sorry, he's not. He's not. It'll really change the way you deal with people and deal with life if you realize that Christ ain't coming back until things are looking good. Because that's what we've been taught, right? Oh, just let her burn. Christ is going to come back anyway. Really? What a great steward you were over the, like I would be sad. I'm not sad that, it'd be awesome. I'd be in heaven, but I'd be like, the condition of my world. I'd be sad. I'd be like, man, I would have liked to done better for you, Not out of some religious thing, but because I love him and I want to see him glorified. Amen. So, we do not hear from God about people over whom we have no influence, authority, or accountability. Does that make sense? Okay. And I'm trying, this is just, it runs so close. Like if we had SoFi 2, this would have been part of that curriculum. You know what I mean? Because this runs so close with the stuff that we covered in that class. And so I apologize. I'm not trying to keep people out of the loop. But for the sake of time, I got to keep going. So we're talking about the principles that we can draw from this 17 and 5, right? Is that dreams about self may be for the dreamer and their descendants as well. So if not you, then it's most likely in your vein. These are people that you have life with, that you have authority with, that you rub elbows with. Is this making sense? Yes. Okay, so the revelation of the dream is not given for any random individual or to any random individual, but to the one with the authority and the influence. Because ultimately the dream is to help you and to preserve, right? And so God's not just going to give somebody down the street this like totally whacked out dream if it's not somehow going to get to you on an influential level. Does that make sense? Okay. Many, many times we dream about other people not to call them and say, I had this dream about this thing that happened and this and that. If you start dreaming about other people, Holy Spirit's inviting you to intercede. Intercessors who become fluent in dream language often get as their main source of knowledge dreams over where and who to intercede for. It's pretty awesome. I have lots and lots of testimonies about that. So you can consider that insider information. It's like secrets, I like to say, that Holy Spirit would share with you. Now, what's the deal with a secret? Who do you tell when you hear a secret? Well, only your best friends. You don't tell anybody. They're secrets. Holy Spirit wants to share secrets with people. Now, sometimes if he wants it known, he'll either let you know to make it known or he'll make it known, right? But you keep stuff secret when he shows you to keep stuff secret, especially if you're interceding. You don't want to go blabbing about, well, I have just such a burden on my heart for so-and-so, I keep dreaming about him, and I'm really praying for him, and it's like, really? How much dignity do you think that restores to that person? That you got somebody else wondering about what's up with that person. You see what I mean? Okay. So if you're a dreamer and you're an intercessor, you can expect that the Lord's going to start to test you on how well you handle sensitive information. Will you gossip about it? Will you seek the Lord in prayer? Will you only tell your best friends? Who gets to know? Who gets to know that information? Because he's looking for people he can trust. He's looking for people that he can partner with. So it's vital to remember this principle, guys, that all kinds of dreams contain symbolic language and literal language. And a combination of symbolic and literal, sometimes right in the same thing. Remember last week we talked about numbers and the thing that the number was connected to. So we're talking about a symbolic thing and a literal thing. And when we're interpreting dreams, we need to look for metaphors, smiles, figures of speech. You know, stuff that you hear. Those things that you'll get in that dream language. Dreaming about the catch-up might actually mean that you need to catch up in some area of your life. So we have to start thinking this way, thinking on a more creative level. And I wrote some down here, like a fire might warn you that you're playing with fire. Right? Think about these metaphors, guys. A dream of being smothered or drowned might indicate that you're feeling in over your head. A frozen lake or an ice floe or even ice cubes might be cautioning you that you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. Having your glasses broken might be an indication that you're not seeing things clearly. Having your eyes corrected might be the Lord telling you to sharpen your focus on something. Or opening that up to you. I remember a lady reported having a dream of a fire in the kitchen of her house, and it was a warning that she had inflammation in her digestive tract. It's pretty interesting. Your dreams are meant to help you guys. They're meant to, your body wants to get you this information, right? That's what a headache is. You know why scientists can't figure out what a headache is? I don't either. I know, it's deep. It's deep. Hang on. I have the answers. Be careful of anybody who has a microphone and says that. I don't have the answers. What I do know is that when your body communicates and you can't interpret, it says headache. So I know we try to give me the Advil, and yeah, awesome, get rid of the headache. But you're just masking, like your body's telling you something. You know, like it's time to listen. So, how you figure that out is it's another thing to be wrestled with, right, Barbara? So, other examples of wordplay that might show up in your dream are things like walking a mile in someone else's shoes, being born in a barn, being up the creek without a paddle, as the crow flies. Anybody say that? As the crow flies? I try to say it sometimes. My wife tells me I sound old. Throwing the baby out with the bathwater, on a level playing field, throwing a wrench into the works, the 11th hour, speaking with a forked tongue. All these things can show up in your dreams. So pay attention to metaphors, okay? Your heart might use one of these pictures in your dreams, expecting that you'll understand the symbolic meaning of the expression. So, think creatively. Do creative things. Exercise your creativity. You don't have to produce wonderful works of art that everybody around the earth is going to buy. That's not even important. It's important that you do it. Something, whatever. Build something. Create something. Cook something. Play a game. Look at pictures. Do something that... Think creatively, right? One of the defining attributes of God is that He's creative, I think. I know that He's creative, but I think that's one of His defining attributes. Because isn't that true? When you see something that you've never seen before, you're like, man, how did you think of that? Because you never thought of it. So how could anybody else think of it if I couldn't think of it? That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that we were created in His image and in His likeness. And He's so creative. Look at the earth. Look at all the living things that are in the earth and all the stuff, man. I mean, just look around. It's amazing. He's infinitely creative. It's awesome. And you don't even have to look far. You can try to figure out how the finger works. It's incredible, like how much thought and how much, man, it is incredible. God is super, super creative, man. And I don't think that it's unreasonable to believe that God would want to speak to us on the level in which He created. On a creative level. He created us to be creative beings like Him. And I don't think it's unreasonable for God to communicate with us on that level. Right? Come up here, son. Let's talk a while. Right? So be prepared for unexpected and clever ways for your heart and for Holy Spirit to show you or to get His point across to you, that your conscious mind, to get that. It's a hard thing. You ever try to teach somebody something? It's not always easy, right? Not everybody's open to being taught. So we've got to be open with plays on words and literal connections. And finally, this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then we're going to look at some dreams, and then I need to talk to you a little bit more about dreaming about other people, and then if we have time, we can go back to looking at some dream interp. But it's going to be pretty cool. So just remember that God is big enough. He's gracious enough. He's smart enough to make sure that you understand the message that He wants to get across to you. Do you guys believe that? So don't freak out. Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means. I gotta just settle down. He'll get you the information. He'll get it to you. If you need it, it's helpful. He'll make sure that you get it, you guys. And if your understanding of your dream interpretation is different than what I shared or what somebody else tries to help you along, he'll meet with you, and sometimes He'll meet with you in your dream world according to your expectations. He'll speak to you on your level, which is super awesome. Okay. I want to talk to you guys about what I would consider one of the best ways, best method. This is the method that I've been using to interpret your dreams about your self dreams, which are like 95% or more of your dream life. So this is a really, really easy method, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to try to take one apart and show you how I do it using this method. And then if it's not too convoluted, maybe I'll show you how to streamline that even. Because we talked about writing your dream, and we also talked about bullet point dreams. And bullet point dreaming use the same method, but it's cleaner. The interp is cleaner and less work involved, which is kind of nice. But I'm going to show you just some of my own dreams. I promised I would, or I told you guys, I guess that's a promise, that I would show you some. I trust that, this is going on podcast, so it can't be that private. But, so you're welcome, world. They don't know me. But you guys know me, so just be nice. All right? And then I'll show you some of the stuff in Okay, so if you're taking notes and you want to know, like this is the method. Okay, this is the best way to interpret a dream. First, start with the first symbol and then interpret that. Go on to the next symbol and then interpret that. Don't try to interpret everything at once and don't bounce around. Just work your way down. This is going to be clear when I show it to you, so you'll be able to see it. Continually ask the question. You guys remember the questions I told you to ask last week when you're looking at your symbols. In what way am I experiencing this symbol in my life at this time? Okay, so if it's about an animal, what's an animal mean to me? If it's about a person, what character trait does this person have? How do I see this person? Does that make sense? Okay, in what way am I experiencing this symbol in my life at this time? When you have all the pieces, it's much easier to figure out what the dream's about. Then when you know what the dream is about, you can get the message from the Lord. Now that's going to kind of depend on how He talks to you. I wish you were all graduates of SoFi, because we do these exercises where we do like prophetic journaling, where you talk to God and He talks back to you. And so sometimes when you're looking at like, this is what my dream meant, like what's God trying to get across to me, those are the things I would jot down as what God's saying back to me. right? Okay, so this is going to make a lot of sense in just a second, I hope. Let me see if I can find one here that's not too revealing. I'm going to try. Okay, that's a bullet point dream. Let me open one that's not bullet pointed. I tried to do a bunch. That's bullet pointed too. Which one's not? Okay, perfect. How do I want to do this? Okay. I can just feel the anticipation in the room. Holy cow, that's tiny. Sorry. Okay, so this is how I start. Here's my dream. And I'll show you all the colors and all that stuff that I do in a second. But I'll read it to you because you don't really need to see it. I'll read it to you, and then you can see how I dice it up. Okay? So it says at the top, that's how I went to bed. This is fresh. I dreamed this last night. So I wrote it down this morning, actually, 6:03. So I was dealing with loss and relationship miscommunications. That's how I went to bed. And so here's my dream. Somebody relate? Is that why you laughed? Okay. So the dream is this. I'm sitting in Walmart like a fireworks show. So imagine how you go to see fireworks. Like there's a blanket and we're all sitting there, right? So I'm at Walmart. It's like a fireworks show. I'm with Tanya's family because that's who I watch fireworks with. Remember, we talked about how God will give you dreams about stuff that's in your life, right? Like kings, when they dream, they're dreaming about palaces and statues and stuff that they see, right? This stuff that's in your life. Okay, so this is my life. So I'm sitting in Walmart. It's like a fireworks show. I'm with Tanya's family. I'm next to Steph. That's my sister. And we are chatty, which we normally are. All of a sudden, these robotic arms remove these boxes like an unveiling, and we're looking at office chairs on display. It was hugely anticlimactic. I'm like, office chairs? And we're all laughing like, what is stupid office chairs? Who gives a hoot? You know what I mean? And then we all laugh, and it crosses my mind. I put that in parentheses because I wasn't sure if it was important, but it did cross my mind that I need one. So I didn't know if that was important or not, but I wrote it down when I was recording the dream, and I put it in parentheses because that to me says, I don't know if this is important or not, but maybe it's important. We'll just see how the body works out. So then Chris walks over. Chris is Stephanie's husband. Excuse me. Gross. Husband. So Chris walks over to join, but he's distracted by one of the office chairs. And it's like this huge, expensive office chair. And so Steph begins to dish with me about Chris and his spending habits. So this is my language, right? She starts to dish with me. She's telling me, she's like, oh my God, he's spending money hand over fist and blah, blah, blah. Like she's telling me about his spending habits, okay? So she tells me that he just bought some other chair for some other part of the house for a bunch of money. And so I was trying to encourage her. I said, well, I bet at least it looks nice. And she smirked and shook her head lightly no. She was like, like, what's he know about picking out furniture? So, and then the rest of the family, we all kind of snickered. We're like, like we do. So, like, we're all in on it. So he picked a super expensive office chair. It was $600. Again, I didn't know if that was important, but it sounded like do you guys? I won't ask, but I wouldn't spend $600 on an office chair. Anyways, it seemed expensive to me. So, so he buys this office chair, grabbed the box, and he left to go buy it. Steph looks at me and says, Chris buys whatever he wants. And it was like, she looked me in the eyes and was like, It didn't seem like a bad thing, but she was cautious and concerned. So he's, they make money and all that stuff. So then, listen what happens. So I wake up, and I'm ready to write the dream, and my mind starts working. So I'm learning some other things, and I start thinking about these other things, and I'm like, yeah, I'll remember. I'll get up in a minute and write it. And then, so I'm thinking about these other things, and my mind starts working, and I start to kind of lull back into a sleep. And I kid you not, more clear than I've ever felt, I felt this. Just a little pinch on my shoulder. My eyes popped wide open, and I was like, had that moment of panic. I was sure there was somebody over my shoulder. You know, I'm like, stuff's floating across my eyes. And I'm like, oh my God. Someone's in my room. You know, like fully expecting like to see somebody over me. And it was nobody. And I was like, okay, yes, sir, I got it. I got up and I wrote the dream. And turned out it was important to me after I interpreted it. I didn't realize that it was as important to me as it was when I interpreted it. Okay, so typically this is how the dream works. There's a setting, right? There's a setting, and then there's the body, what it is to you. Okay, so this one, for example, come on, baby.
You didn't know you were dreaming when you were sitting there at Walmart with your sister, though, did you?
I didn't know I was dreaming.
Very good.
If I did, I would have entered into a lucid dream and I've flown away.
Okay.
Because that's what I do. As soon as I realize I'm dreaming, I'm like, I'm flying.
All right.
Yeah, I'm out of here. Okay. So, yeah. See you, chumps. I'm out of here. Yeah. Then I'm off to Paris or something. Like, woo! Yeah. So, okay. So there's like the setting. So the setting is I'm at Walmart with the family. There's like fireworks, and then this is the body. This is the message. So what he's trying to say. So now I've got it separated. I know it's good here. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to highlight things as I read it that I get a check in my spirit about. That's important. So I'm talking to Steph and we're chatty. That was important. It's important when you talk to people, it's important that you know who you're talking to, because those people are going to be a part of you that your heart's trying to communicate with. And this is going to make a lot of sense in a minute. If I could just keep the mouse on the screen, I'd be super pumped. Okay, then there was an unveiling. I was super pumped when I was like, these arms removed the boxes. And I'm like, that's dumb. And then I was like, oh, it's unveiling. Like I said that while I was writing the dream down. So I wrote that down because I thought it was profound. So then Chris walks over. That's important, remember? Characters are important. Right? Okay, this is parts of me. Then she smirked no. That was important. All that other stuff is detail. It's good detail. It's not meaningless. But these are as you're going through, you'll know those things that stick out. Remember, they're like exclamation points. They're like, oh yes, that was important, that was important. Those are the things that you need to interpret. And then you put that back into the body, and it becomes very, very clear. Okay? And then the other thing was important. You guys could probably guess. It was this. She looked me right in the eyes. Yeah. Chris buys whatever he wants. Ain't nobody going to tell him no. Okay, so now I'm ready. Now I've got the stuff in red, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those things one by one, and I'm going to drop them below and put a little colon and then write out what it symbolizes, okay? So I'm not going to do this for each one for the sake of time. I'm just going to cut and paste it over. But this is what I would do. Chris. And then I would write down how I see Chris, right? Like, what attributes stand out to me in Chris. Now, I'm going to say this. It's very important when you dream about somebody not to call them and tell them that you dreamt about them, and then tell them the details of your dream. First of all, because it's probably not about them at all. Second of all, if they understand dream language and you tell them your dream, the context of their dream, and what character they were, they might not be flattered with how you see them and what character you see in that person. Okay? So Jer got it. So you share this dream with somebody and they're like, dude, you see me as like a militant authoritarian? And you're like, it's just a dream. Yeah, exactly. So caution, okay? So that's what I would do, and I'm just going to drag these. Does that make sense? Can I just drag and drop these over there? Because it's going to be much more interesting if I can just go through it with you. So all I did was I took the stuff on top and I dropped them down here. Now, you'll notice, don't start reading ahead, just look for me. You'll notice that next to people I'll put different things and then I'll go through and I'll scratch a line through it. So I'll put down everything Chris means to me. I probably should have used different names. Don't tell your sister this is on the podcast. And then I'll scratch the stuff out that doesn't make sense to me, right? Like these are the things that it could be, and then I'll go through and I'll be like, no, oh yeah, that's it right there. Okay. So here are some things that I think about when I think about Chris. He's an entrepreneur. He's a money maker. He's secretive, and he's a sports fan. And so when I was going back through that, I was like, no, it's not about his secretive nature. No, it's not about his sports. Okay, so this is about the entrepreneur and the moneymaker. Now, Steph, she's my sister. She's kind of timid. I believe she's needs protection. She's kind of scared to go without. No, I'm not going to get any deeper than that. And then, like a fireworks show, I'm watching in anticipation. I'm paying attention, right? Like we're all sitting down on the carpet, right? Like you're there to watch something happen. You're there to see something, right? So it's like, hey, pay attention. Next to Steph, and we're chatty, I'm talking to, who am I talking to? See, I scratched those out. I'm talking to my scared to go without it self. I'm talking to that part of me, the part of me that's scared to go without, the part of me that's scared of lack. Is this making sense? Okay. And so there's an unveiling. There's a grand display of something obscure and relatively meaningless. Like, ta-da! It's stupid! You know what I mean? Like that, because that's what it was. These boxes open up and it's like office chairs. Who gives a rip? You know what I mean? So then Chris walks over and he's distracted. So my money-making self is distracted by obscure and meaningless stuff and misses the entire event and wastes resource. That's not even the interpretation. That's just the symbol. Pretty cool, right? Okay. So she smirked and shook lightly no. He purchased, his purchase and distracted heart attitude was sad and wasteful. And last was Chris buys whatever he wants. Remember that statement? Out of control, right? He buys whatever he wants. That's out of control, isn't it? He's doing his own thing. He doesn't really care about others. Okay, now just in case my sister happens to listen, please make sure, sweetheart, that you listen to all the other messages because this dream is not about you or Chris. It's about me. All right. So we're all on the same page. Okay. It's just how God spoke to me. All right. So now it's becoming clear to me what this means. So now I can go back into the dream and I can see those red marks for what they are. So here is my scared to go without self, clearly concerned about the entrepreneurial moneymaker part of me. I also know that this dream is not about money and buying stuff. Symbolic. Okay? So, you don't want to say, well, man, I guess this means I'm not supposed to buy stuff or have... Okay. So, I'm just going to give you the interpretation that I got after the context of the dream and the breakdown. Do you need a recap? Okay. So here was my interp. Don't be distracted by the obscure things of life that, nice as they may be or necessary as they may be, only distract you from that which matters most. Having stuff isn't a bad thing, but caution and discretion should be applied. Distraction leads not only to wastefulness, but will turn your heart cold toward others as you become increasingly self-seeking. Does it seem far-fetched that I would come to this conclusion after the dream that I had and the symbols broken down like they were? Okay? So, Is it earth-shattering? Is it aha? Probably not for you guys. Because it's my heart. This is my stuff. I'm just letting you look at it. Okay? This is my stuff. You're welcome. And it's important to me, right? And so don't be distracted by obscure things of life that only distract you from that which matters most after I already told you I went to bed dealing with loss and relationship miscommunications. Do you understand? That's what my heart's dealing with. I'm like, oh man, I'm like, fighting being sad and wondering if I offended that person I just talked to on the telephone. And now I'm thinking, man, I've just been a jerk to everybody I've ever talked to all the time. You know where your mind goes. I'm going to tell you guys. And so that's what I'm dealing with. I go to bed and I have this dream, and then the interpretation turns out to be, this is hugely encouraging to me. Don't be distracted by these things of life, man. They might be important. They might be nice. They might be necessary. Did you catch that? They might even be necessary. You might even need one. Don't be distracted by it, because that will keep you from what matters most. And then he affirmed me. Look, having stuff's not bad. David, I didn't give you this dream to tell you not to buy an office chair. Having stuff's not bad. But use discretion. Because distraction leads to wastefulness. And not only wastefulness, but the more you're distracted, the more you give in to distraction, the colder your heart's going to turn towards others, because you will become increasingly self-seeking. You will be like that guy who went to go to be with the family to watch the fireworks at Walmart and saw a shiny thing that was stupid and obscure, scrutinized it, picked it up, bought it, left, and never actually engaged with he missed all the important stuff. Could have gotten that chair anytime he wanted. Right? I'm talking figuratively. Okay, so does this make sense? Okay, and it's going to be easier with your own dreams. I promise you. It'll be just try it. And it's not going to be super easy at first, and you might get even a little frustrated, and you might be like, I just want to take a break. Stick with it, because it'll come, and as it comes, it never comes until it's there. And you're like, I don't know. You get you're like, that this is right, that that's right. You get that check in your heart, those things are good, but the dream's not really making any sense to you. And then all of a sudden, it all makes sense. And you're like, oh, yeah. How did I not see that? So stick with it until the end, all right? I got to talk to you about a couple other things. I wanted to look at some other dreams that I did, and maybe if you guys pray for me and I can get through this information really, really fast, I can show you another dream. I kind of wanted to show you another dream. Can I show you a bullet point dream? Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'll show you this one. This one's kind of cool. I dreamed this 2 days ago. And I'm just going to... Okay, so here's what I did. I just decided to be easier if you could see it while I'm talking. Okay, so I took my dream. This is my dream over here. And I just bullet pointed it. So I didn't tell you the whole story of my dream. I just wrote down the bullet points. And then I immediately interpreted them as I wrote them. Okay, does that make sense? And then I was able to get the interpretation. This is a streamlined version of what I just showed you. I just subtracted a step, made my page a little cleaner. But it might be easier for you in the beginning, contextually, to write out your whole dream. And that way you can go back and reference it. Okay? So I went to sleep hopeful. I was feeling hopeful when I went to sleep. But I had just watched a documentary on stars. So I was flying through space. I love doing that before I go to bed because I have really cool dreams when I do something super imaginative before I go to bed. So I got off the boat in Hawaii. Look, I'm just going to read you the highlighted part, okay? So here's the setting and here's the body. All right, so I'm going to give you the bullet points. Got off a boat in Hawaii. I skipped the tour bus and I opted to walk, reasoning that it would be fun and not too far. As I'm walking, it occurs to me to call my friend Sherilee, who lives in Hawaii. The beach is further than I thought, and sand in my shoes is making it uncomfortable. I see a pier in the distance, reasoning that I'll just go there instead of the planned destination because I see the tour van rounding the corner in the far-off distance. I'm like, that's way too far. I'm not going to go there. So those were my bullet points. So I got off on a boat in Hawaii. It's a brand new place, like an adventure. I skipped the tour bus and opted to walk. I'm traveling my own path. I'm going my own way. I'm not following everybody else. Okay? I reasoned that it would be fun and not too far. So it looked like an adventure, but a doable one. Like, okay, this is, it's kind of far, but, I'm in Hawaii. Let's do it. So, whatever. Then, it occurs to me to call my friend Sherilee, who lives in Hawaii. Now, Sherilee, if you know her, she's a total free spirit. So now I'm talking about the free spirit side of myself. The side that says, we're taking a health day. Call the kids in sick. We're going to Disneyland or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so she's the free spirit, so I'm talking to the free spirit side of me. The beach is further than I thought, and sand in my shoes is making it uncomfortable. So this journey is bigger than I imagined, complicated by obstacles and trials. Can you guys see how I'm getting those conclusions from the dream? I see a pier in the distance and reason that I'll just go there instead of the planned destination because I see the tour van rounding the corner in the distance. It seemed like the right place to go. It seemed like a better, closer, and more convenient place to go as well. Now that was all within the context of my dream. But this bullet point caused me to remember that. Right? So that made sense. Here's the interpretation. Calling out your free-spiritedness. Fear no great exploit. Walk your own path. This is a big adventure, but you're not alone. Not necessarily equipped, but you don't need that stuff. And this makes it more adventuresome. You will encounter trials and obstacles, but I, the Lord, have prepared a place for you, a cove, not too far and just where I want you. Don't follow the group and take part in their busy tourist trap destination, the cares of this world. Walk your own path so that I can lead you. Pretty awesome. God's encouraging me. Now, this was also encouraging me because we go, walk my own path, but I want to follow the Lord. And the Lord's going, walk your path and I'll lead you. A man chooses which way he'll go. So you walk your path and I'll lead you. It's this strange counterbalance in the kingdom. It's like you give your life to get it. And God's like, decide where you want to go so I can lead you. You know what I mean? It's like, put this really cool push and pull that's happening. And so this was really encouraging to me, right? Like, hey man, my heart's telling me to be adventuresome. My heart's telling me, dude, that adventurous side of you, go for it. Don't even worry about it. Don't worry about the stuff that you don't have. It'll be there as you need it. And if you had all that stuff that you needed, you'd be wearing a backpack and carrying a suitcase and you'd be trying to walk to that cove with all this stuff. Don't worry about it. It just bears you down. And anyways, if you don't have it, it makes it that much more of an adventure. If night falls and it starts to rain and I don't have a tent in my hand, now I got an adventure. Oh, I got to figure out how to do shelter. Cool. Right? Yeah. Okay, let me get through this, and I don't think I'm going to have time to show you any more dreams, but at least not tonight. I brought 4 or 5 here to show you, but so this is like bullet point style. Does this make sense to you guys? Does this look doable? Does this feel weird? It's pretty natural, isn't it? The things that you have to remember that you would have picked up in SoFi is that the Lord is for you. He's not against you. And we talked about it in this class in Job, that your dreams are to preserve, to help, to give you life. Not to beat you down or tell you how bad you are. So you have to approach your dream interp with that knowing who God is in your heart and how He feels toward you. Because if you think that God is this big mean guy holding a stick, waiting to wallop you when you make a mistake, your interpretation is going to look a lot different. So you got to know your God. Okay? Okay, lastly, let me just share some more thoughts about dreams that you have for other people. Many of you who become proficient in dream interpreting will be tempted and possibly tested in how you're using your gift. Okay? Temptation is of the enemy, test is of the Lord. Right? So as you get better with it and as you start using it, you can expect some of those things to be fired at you. Dream life is a mystery to most people. It is. It's a huge mystery, and people are intrigued about their dreams. They are. It doesn't take long to figure out that lots of people are really into this whole dream thing. Matter of fact, I stumbled into this website. I'm not going to tell you about it because it's my treasure. But I stumbled into this website. It's totally secular, but people just go on there and share their dreams, and whoever wants to interpret it can. You just drop your interpretation in the bottom. I felt like I was in a playground. I'm like, yeah! Spent like an hour in there. I'm like, God, I need to do some work, But I do go there from time to time. I'll share it with you, but not on the podcast. Did you hear me? So dream life is a real mystery to people, you guys, and so when people find out that you can speak dream language, they're going to give you authority. Some people will give you authority to speak directly to their hearts, and generally this is good, unless you are a person that hasn't had your character worked on, right? This gift can be misused. Don't misuse this gift. Because when people give you inroads to their heart and you don't have proper character, you're going to try to impress people. You're going to try to manipulate people. We see this a lot, unfortunately, in immature people who give a go at prophecy. Is they try to end up like manipulating and lording over people. Thus saith the Lord. Or, the Lord told me, Rick, that you need to do such and such. And if you disobey, I know that you're disobeying the Lord. And not only do I know that you're disobeying the Lord, I also know that you're disobeying me, who actually wants to be God in that scenario. So, we're not going to do that.
And when he confirms that to me, I'll let you.
Exactly. Okay. For example, though, this is what happens in dreams sometimes. I had a dream about you and so. The Lord's telling you to marry so-and-so. Yeah. We tell, in our prophecy class, we say never prophesy two things. Who remembers what they are? Babies and marriages. You never prophesy babies and marriages. Ever. Unless you're an expert, 10 years of experience, you've been invited to big churches to talk about it. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, no, it doesn't make you an expert. That last part doesn't. But 10 years of experience should help. Okay, so this puts the individual and the interpreter in a bad spot. Why would you do that to yourself? Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Why do you want to be God over somebody? You don't want to do that. Okay? If you don't obey, you're not obeying God. That's bad. That's a bad deal. Right? Okay, so dreams about others. Perhaps only 5% of our dreams are about others. This dream is not talking about parts of yourself. It's not relating to you. It doesn't concern your outer situations. And I've discovered that the more prophetically gifted you are, the more likely you're going to start dreaming away from home. Okay, it's just going to start to happen, especially as you start digging in this world. And dreams about others are shared publicly much more often than self-dreams. Why? Because this isn't easy for me to share with you guys. Maybe it means something to you, maybe it doesn't, but this makes me feel naked. You know what I mean? And so there's many, many times. Also, this dream is about me. It doesn't really apply to you, right? It doesn't really hold any weight to you, so why would I talk to you about my self-dreams? Right? I mean, other than we're friends and we like to talk about dreams. That's not... I wouldn't make it public, I wouldn't base a message on this and deliver it to you on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? This is mine. It's for me. God's talking to me. Holy Spirit's talking to me, right? So that's why sometimes it seems like you're only hearing people dreaming about others, right? And so the natural assumption is, well, if I'm going to be a dreamer, I'm going to have to dream about other people. And that's not true. You just hear about that more often. And that's why the vast majority of dreams in the Bible fall into that category. Okay? So here's some clues I want to give you, and I'm going to end here. I think I am. Here's some clues that might indicate you're dreaming about others. Just some little notes that I took here. So you're an observer of the action. If you play an active role in the dream, it's likely a dream about you. If you're only an observer to the activity of the dream, it's likely about others. Sometimes you are the observer and then you become involved. I know I talked about this earlier. This is usually an indication that the Lord wants you to intercede, not necessarily make a phone call. Right? Okay. The dream does not fit your life. You should always ask God, Lord, show me any way the events in this dream are revealing struggles in my heart that I'm currently facing. So you should always assume that the dream's about you. Right? So before you assume it's about somebody else, first assume that it's about you. And ask the Lord, show me some way that the events in this dream are relating to me and my struggles. Okay? If you can't see that this dream is talking about an issue that you're facing, you should see your spiritual counselor. You should contact some help. See how this might be something that your heart is hiding or something that you can't see. If everybody's in agreement, then you can start to play with the idea that this dream is for somebody else.